All right, we are recording, and hopefully there's no noise coming over the mic. I see the light going off when there's no sound to trigger it, so there's static somewhere. I don't know where, but I do have noise filtering turned on in OBS that typically does a pretty good job. So hopefully that's getting rid of it, but I don't know. It should only be there when I'm talking, if it is there, because normally when I'm not talking, I see it flatline, so there's nothing. So hopefully, I don't know. It comes and goes. I don't know. I'll try to figure it out at some point. Anyhow, so this is chapter 3, isn't it? Yeah, the courtship. Um, it's an amusing chapter. So, at the end of the last chapter, Humperdinck now knows I have to get married. Drat. So they start figuring out, have a conference, him, the king, the queen, and Mugen, to talk about this. It is somewhat interesting because this is the first time that we truly are being introduced to the king and to the queen. The king is, I've already described, he's quite old, so he is dying. But it's also, he can't really talk. It only comes out as mumbles. So basically every time he says anything in here, and I don't know if he will keep this up for the rest of the book, but he says something, it's like what he means to say, and then it's like what actually comes out. Let me see if I can find a good example. Tell him I've changed Miracle Man, King Lotharan said. It came out, tell mumble, mumble, mumble. Only the queen is actually able to translate him. And this is also interesting, because in the movie it is stated that Humperdinck fired Miracle Max, but here, no, it's apparently the queen who did. And it's basically just getting a new doctor because the old one Max wasn't curing him. Anyway, but it's also interesting how the queen is introduced. So, I mean, that basically covers the king. Four of them met, this is the first sentence, no, sorry, first two sentences. Four of them met in the great council room of the castle. There's static on the line and static in my mouth, apparently. Prince Humperdinck, his confidant to Count Rugen, his father, aging King Lothario, and Queen Bella, his evil stepmother. She was easily the most beloved person in the kingdom, and been married to the king long before he began mumbling. Prince Humperdinck was but a child then, and since the only stepmothers he knew were the evil ones from stories, he always called Bella that, or ES for short. See, I had a criticism in one of the other chapters. That's right, it was in the first one talking about Buttercup's parents, and how it had, over here, it was talking about how, their only dream is of escaping each other, but then over here, and I think it made a full page later, maybe more, when it was like, oh no, they actually are really in love with each other, and even though they do bicker, they do argue, that's part of how their relationship is. So it is actually for them healthy, essentially. I mean, there could be unhealthy arguments, but the arguing itself was healthy, was part of the relationship. And I explained I didn't like that because you're basically lying and then gets to it, and then it explains it so much later. This, yes, is a lie, his evil stepmother, because everyone interprets it as, oh, she's bad, but it's 2-3 sentences later that, no, here it is. That I'm okay with. Because that's more of just, okay, I've given you the idea, now I'm going to go forward and explain it right away. That I'm good with. But it's still a little funny how it does that. So, what follows is, they're talking about, it's like, how about the Princess of Gilder? Wouldn't that make sense? Tell me about her. And he basically describes you would consider her an attractive woman. The only imperfection that is described for her physically is she has heterochromia, so one eye is blue, one eye is green, which, depending, I can see some people being weirded out by that and be like, nope. Humperdinck doesn't really care. Personally, I don't think I would either, but, I mean, it's not that I know of that specific imperfection, but I've known a lot of people in this plane in my family with one kind of imperfection or another, so yeah, that's minor. It's actually kind of interesting. So anyhow, one thing about her character, though, that is curious is she has the greatest collection of hats anyone has ever seen. Turns out there's a reason for this. It's not just she's a woman. There is an actual specific reason, which is only determined later. We also get, before that, a long explanation and insert. And there is an actual term. I just don't remember what it is. It's like a page and a third, explaining that, yeah, I've cut out some 56.5 pages because it's concerned with packing. See, the decision has been made. Yes, bring her over. We'll see how this Princess Norina. Excuse me. Some name like that. We'll invite her over and see if this will work. And so the queen is sent to do that, which does seem odd. That's normally not the business for a queen. You would expect somebody else sent to see about, is there an interest? Yeah, okay, next back. Then you may send the queen or somebody of higher status, at least, to then actually bring her over to escort her. Especially because Gilder and Florin are fairly often at war. Where is that actually? Okay, that is later then. No, where is it? Okay. I'm trying to remember the history of Gilder. Oh no, it is right here. Okay. In any case, the two countries had stayed alive over the centuries, mainly by warring on each other. There had been the Olive War, the tuna fish discrepancy, which almost bankrupted both nations, the Roman Rift, which did send them both into insolvency, only to be followed by the discord of the Emeralds, in which they both got rich again, chiefly by banding together for a brief period and robbing everybody within sailing distance. So you wouldn't expect there to be much trust between them. Anyway. They summon the princess over, she does come. And so naturally they're going to hold a banquet in her honor and in the potential honor of them getting married. And it explains the design of the castle, and specifically of the great hall that they're doing this in. And that by accident, the right doors are open such that a strong wind goes through it. And this is how we learn why she wears hats. She's apparently completely bald. And though Humperdinck is willing to forgive many things, he doesn't really care. He has no interest in marriage at all. He is only interested in getting married and having a son so that there is an heir, just fulfilling the duty. That's it. And that does come up later as well. But he is still vain. And even though she wears hats all the time, she even wears a hat in bed, it is still, he cannot suffer to have anyone snickering at him because your wife is bald. Yeah. He's a vain man. What do you expect? And also, I mean, based on the movie, we expect him to become a coward, so he wouldn't stand up for her in that case. So, yeah. Despite it potentially being a good thing for Florin, because, I mean, legitimately, if they were married and they had a son, that would mean that the son of the Princess of Gilder will be the King of Florin. That very possibly would be no, it is now one nation kind of thing. But anyhow, so that is not going to happen. And it's funny because the queen is even like, that's not good politically. And he's like, don't worry about it. I'll just conquer them sometime. I thought about it all the time when I was a kid. So that there was a little bit of setup of him trying to go to war there. Or at least him considering it. Whether or not it will actually happen, well, how he gets there, we'll see. Excuse me. So obviously that doesn't work. But now he's like, yeah, I need to marry somebody. I need her to be beautiful. Whatever she needs to be beautiful. Can't she be common? Asks Rugen. The commoner, the better. That is likely just I really don't care kind of comment, to be clear. Not that he genuinely wants her to be very common, especially since later on, because obviously Rugen is like, I know who would be perfect. He is actually uncomfortable with the idea of, I don't want to be made fun of for marrying a milkmaid, and them saying that he couldn't do better. But it's like, yes, she can be common. Does she need to know how to hunt? No, she doesn't even need to know how to spell. If she's beautiful, she'll do. So Rugen's like, come with me. So they and their horses go, and it does describe Rugen's horse is black and perfect, but looks like a plow horse compared to the prince's white stallion. Actually, I'm not sure if it's a stallion. I just felt like saying that instead of horse. Anyhow, he's there, and they're talking. He's like, milkmaid, really? I don't know about that, but should we go then? We're already here, so might as well wait. You can go now, because he finally saw her. Follows her a little bit, and yeah. Buttercup had never seen such a giant beast, or such a rider, so referring to them, obviously. I am your prince, and you will marry me, Humperdinck said. Buttercup whispered, I am your servant, and I refuse. I am your prince, you cannot refuse. I am your loyal servant, and I just did. Refusal means death. Kill me then. I am your prince, and I'm not that bad. How could you rather be dead than married to me? Because, Buttercup said, marriage involves love, and that is not a pastime at which I excel. I tried once, and it went badly, and I am sworn to never love again. Love? Who mentioned love? So basically, at this point, you're further solidifying that the prince doesn't care. It's just about, this is just going to be a business transaction, is what he's offering. That's like, look, you're going to be the richest, most powerful woman in the country if you marry me. All you need to do is have my kids until there's a son, and then he can stop, and we're good. And I'll never love you. I wouldn't want it if I had it. Then by all means, let us marry. So, yeah. It is odd in one way, because he is so vain that she must be beautiful. And yet, I can see that being there doesn't need to be love. But at the same time, I feel like it's not quite, that there's going to be more revelations with his character in this here. That it doesn't seem like he would be comfortable with this only being that kind of business-like transaction. That he ultimately needs to be dominant somehow. Like some sort of threat over her or something. That he would need that. And her loving him, like the idea of, I wouldn't want it if I had it. I don't think that would be true. That he would want it because it would be a way to keep her under his power. And I'm not saying that in any kind of questionable, perverse way. I just mean his personality does seem to be, he needs to be the strongest. He needs to be the greatest. He needs to be the most powerful. He needs to be in control. Any means that he could have that over her, he would want it. And her loving him would do that. So, but it is also a little amusing, and this is potentially betraying some of his personality as well. I'm your prince and you cannot refuse. Refusal means death. I'm your prince, and I'm not that bad. That's like, he even went so far as, I'll threaten your life. But then immediately it's well, I don't want to do that. Why? Come on, what's wrong with me? Why not? I mean, it's just interesting how he's the one that came here asking for something, and it goes straight to that. And as I said, that could either be just you're writing that way for the joke, or betraying some of his personality here. That he will just go to that. That the whole, I will just destroy you if you're saying no. That he is that kind of controlling, that kind of domineering. Excuse me. So, yeah. That is kind of it for this. The next chapter I have looked at a little bit, because there's one thing that does make me curious. We have no sense of time, the passage of time at this point. We don't know if it has been weeks or months since Wesley has, well, his ship has been taken by the Dread Pirate Roberts, who takes no prisoners. So we do not know for how long potentially he has been dead. So I did look ahead a little bit, and apparently the next chapter is quite short and basically all just abridged. But it did seem what I was seeing in there, and I was not really reading. I was just trying to spot anything concerning time. She is being trained to be a princess bride and ultimately queen, which it does seem to describe as being weeks to months. I don't remember what was said when Wesley does start challenging her on the top of the hill before falling down to the fire swamp in the movie. I always felt it was like years had passed. And it also makes sense because when he's explaining about the whole history of the Dread Pirate Roberts, he does say that it is like, 4 or 5 years that there's one specific Robertson, then it changes over. So it would seem like 4 or 5 years would have to have passed. So I don't know, but it is... One suggestion, though, is... once my father dies, there won't be an heir, just a king. That's me again. When that happens, I'll marry and have children until there is a son. So you can either marry me and be the richest and most powerful woman in 1,000 miles and give turkeys away at Christmas and provide me a son, or you can die in terrible pain in the very near future. Make up your own mind. That's how he puts it. But the fact is, when that happens, referring to his father dying, I'll marry and have children until there is a son. So it could be then that so long as his father does survive for years, even if Buttercup is the princess bride, the marriage will not be until that she will not, yeah, exactly what I said, that they will not be married until that time, which seems a little odd. You'd think that if it's oh no, we got to do this, do it sooner rather than later, but maybe there is some reason for it. I don't know. And maybe we will get that. Might be in the next chapter, the preparations. After that is the announcement, which I would think, well, I'm not going to go further. I would think that the announcement may be what also includes the lead up to the kidnapping at least. So like her going off and riding, and then encountering Vizzini, Inigo, and Fezzik. Not sure. We'll find out in a bit. But yeah, so I did enjoy the chapter. I think I saw that it did feel more direct in a way. Like yeah, even that's true. I wouldn't even say that there was much meandering in it. It seemed more like, nope, there's a point to this chapter. We're going to get to that point. We're going to do that point. We're going to move on from that point. Which I'm good with. I got no issue with that. But it is just a little different from some of the other chapters so far. Anyway, see you next time.